Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Yes, sound right. All right, so I'm going to play this and we will take you from.
Alex has just completed his graduation from Stanford University. One fine day, he receives a mail from Star Trek Technologies for an interview for the designation of a software engineer, as referred by the university. Alex was really happy and excited about this, and starts preparing for his interview next week. While he was preparing, Alex came across the term downtime. Alex has no idea. What is a downtime? He decided to seek help from his uncle John, a software engineer. John explained that downtime is a specific time frame allocated to deploy or update changes for a software product in a real-time environment. And this happens because most of the softwares we use today are developed using the waterfall model. For example, Cisco, one of the popular leaders in IT and networking globally, is using Agile methodology for their subscription billing platform, SBP, as it was originally developed using the waterfall model. After adopting the Agile methodology, Cisco's product improved its overall efficiency, where defects were reduced by 40% compared to the previous releases, and defect removal efficiency increased by 14%. Upon explaining what downtime is, John further added that downtime is a small part of the waterfall model. It is the traditional way of developing softwares using a software development lifecycle, where the whole product is treated as one single unit, and the development of one phase starts only after the completion of the previous phase. Adding new features or updating the existing feature in a waterfall model-based product needs a specific time frame known as downtime to avoid disturbance in the workflow of an organization, where applying changes in a waterfall-based product might produce irrelevant results or product failure. The waterfall model is the earliest or the traditional model used for software development, where the output of one phase acts as the input for the preceding phase, consisting of a series of steps, where each phase has specific deliverables that act as the input for the next phase, as it avoids overlapping of phases, as these phases are dependent on each other. This method is simple and easy to understand, where prerequisites are pre-known, documented earlier, and technology remains static, where there is no need for ambiguous requirements due to the delay in software delivery. In contrast, the final version is available only after completing the entire software lifecycle process, with any deviations if available. Changes in the waterfall model contain high risk, as changes include a new, revised version of the entire software running the entire series of steps again and again. For example, a tap and pay machine, where the machine first validates whether the customer's account is funded with sufficient funds or not, and then initiates the transaction for money transfer. Unless the validation is processed, the transaction cannot be initiated. Alex was curious and asked Uncle John, is there any way to overcome the drawbacks of the waterfall model? John replies, yes. Agile methodology was introduced to overcome the problems faced in the waterfall model, where Agile-based products are developed by breaking the entire product process into microservices or phases, which is faster to execute and deploy changes on the go. There is no need to worry about other or previous tasks while working on one particular phase, avoiding product failure. Agile-based products don't require any particular time frame, downtime, to deploy changes, unlike the waterfall model, where the whole product is treated as one single unit, and each process is dependent on the preceding processes, where deploying changes leads to downtime. How Agile products are developed? Agile-based products are developed using the Agile lifecycle. At first, the developed product is implemented in an actual working environment for reviews from clients and stakeholders to check its deliverables and functionality. After client reviews, the official product is launched in a real-time working environment, where Agile methodology focuses on satisfying the consumer needs by efficiently utilizing the resources and avoiding additional risks or deviations in the product. For example, providing a trial beta version of the software for the end user to experience the software towards its deliverables and results will be helpful in refining and reviewing the product, like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, etc. After understanding all about Agile methodology, Alex asks Uncle John, are companies implementing Agile in their workspace nowadays? John replies, yes. companies are moving towards Agile methodology due to its flexibility and advantages over traditional systems. By adopting Agile for their Sony Interactive environment, Sony noticed a major difference where there was a reduced planning time by 28% with their framework, and downtime was reduced to the maximum, which made the company save $30 million a year. So here's a question for you. What makes Agile different from waterfall model? A, it is dependent on Microsoft.
Okay, so did we get the gist of that, guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, Tony? Did we?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, from your perspective, what do you think that the differences were?
The differences of
The
Waterfall
methodology.
and Agile, yeah.
what I got from that is breaking down of projects into different phases.
Mhm.
Did you hear me?
Yes. I can go ahead.
Okay. From planning to executing and so on.
Yeah. Okay. So which is, our typical, which is what we did in the past 3 weeks, which is our typical, what's it called, waterfall model, right? And then we've said that Agile is more or less breaking, those phases into tiny projects and then eventually delivering those items, right? So typically in waterfall, what you get is if you go back to our website, right, our attendance website, typically what we will get is we will not release that until everything is ready, right? So what that means is we'll do the planning, we'll do the execution, we'll make sure we develop everything from start to finish, and then we'll release it, right? That's your typical waterfall model. You get the system design, you get people to test, you can't change things midway, and eventually have it developed and delivered, right? But Agile says that's too long a process, right? Agile says that we shouldn't make life a lot difficult for ourselves. What does that mean? So what Agile suggests is, why not just have, like mini projects or mini tasks? When I play the next video, you see what I mean. So mini tasks or mini projects, and then have those delivered within time frames, right? What that means is this. Yeah. So once again, go back to our attendance website or our attendance portal. First week so first 2 weeks, what we can do is say, people can now log in, even though you cannot. You can now log in, right? Next week, you can see people can now log in with their, what's it called? They can now log in with their ID card. Third week, people can now log in with their biometrics. Fourth week, and so on and so on and so forth, right? So that way you continue to, that way when people start to use that product, or people start to use that portal, whenever there's a user feedback, you can easily go back to the engineering team and tweak, and then continue to make that project or that product a lot better. So that is what Agile suggests, right? I'm going to play the second video so that you guys see what it is that, when we start doing, what exactly Agile using Scrum means. Just a second. Thank you. Yeah, found that video. Okay. Let me know when you guys, if you get.
Suppose you'd like to start a new project. Usually you'd draw up a plan,
Can you guys hear this?
Yes.
Great.
make a schedule, find a project manager, hold endless meetings, and ultimately, just hope you don't stumble before you reach the finish line. But what does that usually deliver? Everything's more expensive than expected. You stress about your deadline. The end result could have been better, and energy has drained from your team. These problems are solved with Scrum. With Scrum, you write fewer plans and you do more. In short cycles, we call sprints. You don't work on separate islands, but as one dedicated team. Instead of working on a project with a distant deadline, you constantly deliver functioning products. You don't use final evaluations, but you receive continuous feedback. Scrum is a flexible way of working in a rapidly changing world. It's frequently used in IT projects, so many of the websites you visit or apps you use were made using Scrum. This way of working is used more and more. Scrum was recently used to build a large new bridge, but it can also be used to develop new products, compile budgets and annual reports, organize events in your town, or even to set up a completely new company. How does Scrum work? Let's use the marketing campaign for a new car as an example. In the first week, you take action right away. You share a glimpse of your design through social media. The feedback you receive will be used in week 2. You attract media attention, which leads to new feedback for making improvements. We call these weeks sprints, which are actually mini projects that each produce their own specific results. Instead of knowing exactly where you want to end up, you take a step-by-step approach as you work towards your final ambition, like the successful launch of a new car. A Scrum team has stand-up meetings, works transparently, feels a joint responsibility, is aware of the progress made every day, and has results to celebrate after each sprint. Scrum has 3 roles. First, the product owner, the key stakeholder with a vision who provides direction to the team for each sprint. Then there are team members, 5 to 9 professionals in various disciplines who are jointly responsible for the results. The Scrum Master, a facilitator who focuses completely on the process. Then there are Scrum lists, the product backlog in which you list your ambitions and express how you intend to achieve them. The sprint backlog, the shopping list of products you want to produce in the next sprint. The definition of done indicates precisely what needs to be done by the end of the sprint. And the Scrum board. This shows all of the team members' tasks, which will change from to do to busy to done during a sprint. Then there are 4 meetings. First, the sprint planning meeting. What exactly are we going to achieve during this sprint, and who's doing what? Next, the stand-up. Is everything going according to plan, and are we going to make it? The third meeting is the review, during which you deliver your results and receive feedback. The last meeting is the retrospective. You look back on the process and reflect on what you can improve as a team for the next sprint. Scrum.
Great. So guys, do you get that?
Yes.
Fantastic. Any takeaways to me?
It says that it's a flexible way of working.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And sprints are mini projects that produces their own results.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and they have roles.
Everybody has a role. Yeah, exactly. Different roles, and pretty much everyone has a role to play. Right. Hi, Abdurrahman. Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Yes, sure. I'm with you.
Yeah. Any takeaways?
Yeah. That, yeah. Every input are independent and are not really entirely reliable on the total outcome.
Ooh, great. Yes. So I mean, so ideally, when it comes to Scrum and Agile, right, and you see that Scrum is not the only methodology or only mindset or only framework in Agile. We have a few others, but Scrum is the most popular. If you go to LinkedIn and type Agile project manager, most of the tools or most of the skills that they will ask you to have is Scrum. It will be the top of the list. The lower ones will probably now be maybe Kanban, or Kanban is more or less like also lightweight, right? But we'll go into all of that as we go. So that's basically what Scrum does. Scrum allows you to do projects on a little by little basis, so that you can continue to deliver something to the customer, right? At the end of the day, most important person for your product is the customer, right? Because if the customer doesn't buy your product, right? I mean, there's no point, because if they don't buy your product, how will you make money, right? At the end of the day, right? So that's the most important person. So you need to continue delivering value for your customer on a regular basis, right? And Scrum now says that you can do that whether in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. So typically for me, I'm always a proponent of 2 to 3 weeks, because it's easier for you to really do stuff and then push out, right? Most organizations tend to do 2 weeks, but also depends on the product and depends on the overall manifesto that you guys have decided from scratch. Right. So let's dig in and let's kick off. Great. All right, let me know when you guys can see my screen. We can kick off.
No, this is clear.
Great. Tommy, can you see as well?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. Yeah, so I mean, purpose for this class for you to understand, Scrum and Agile experiences, process knowledge, Scrum roles, ceremonies, artifacts, user stories, all activities, and basically how you can, transition to become a Scrum Master, and then, Scrum Master and then an Agile person, right? Right. So what is Agile? And that's always the first question that I get asked all the time. A lot of people say it's a framework, but by the time you start looking at the Scrum Guide, you see that it's not a framework, right? It's basically a mindset. Yes, it's a framework, right? But typically it's a mindset. It's a way of doing things, right? It means that you need to be. So, for example, if I say, what does it mean to be agile? Or basically, I'm saying, what does it mean to be flexible, right? What does it mean to be flexible?
Okay.
What does it mean to be nimble? Right. That's basically what agile is: being able to maneuver yourself away from tight spots or tight situations. Right. So agile is a philosophy and the mindset. Flexibility, agility, adaptability, incremental delivery, iterative cycle, fast and constant feedback, and engagement. Right. The good thing about agile is you continuously get feedback, right? So if you deliver something today and you don't like it, right? I mean, you can always drop your reviews and comments and say, people, I don't like this, right? Or you just say, I don't like this. And then you drop your comments and your feedback, and the product owners and product managers will go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what's wrong with this? How can we make this better? And then you look at it and you make it better, right? So you're constantly working with customers throughout. What that means is you're constantly finding out what exactly the customer needs. And like I said, your customer is the most important person. If people are not buying your products, or if customers are giving you feedback and you're not, replying to those feedbacks or implementing those feedbacks that you've been given, then there's a problem, because you won't end up having paying customers. Right. So you're always constantly working with customers throughout the development life cycle, right? Ensuring final solution actually meets the business needs. What that means is, if customer says that they want the order button to be at the top, and you go and put it at the bottom, right? So if Tommy goes to Zara's website and they see that, and she says that I'm looking for the female section, and I have to go through 2-3 pages before I get to that female section, I mean, it literally doesn't make sense, right? So you want to always continue to make sure that whatever it is that you've been told to do from the customer perspective is what is delivered at the end of the day, right? So you're focusing on business value, not just strictly project plan or project or output. What does that mean? It means that you're not just doing Agile because it's just another way to deliver a project, right? You're doing Agile because there's a customer need or a business value that needs to be done, right? And that business value is basically maybe customers are finding needs a better way to get responses whenever they send you an email, right? So case in point is we had a survey in the second quarter in the office, and one of the things that customers complained about that it was taking them time to get responses to requests and to queries, right? And we sat down, right? And the team sat down, and then we did a brainstorming session, and then we did something. We found a solution around it, and that solution was to implement something called self-help and self-help. So I'm sure if you go to some websites today, you can see there's usually like a chatbot by the right-hand side, right? And they're asking you, how can I help? Right. So we did something similar, and then we took it a step further by not just collecting customers' information. We also integrated it to our database so that customers, whenever they put in their details, their email address, or the transaction details that they are trying to make an inquiry about, you can get real-time responses from of those information of that particular transaction. What that means is it will put less burden on the customer experience people or customer service people that are trying to deliver a service. It would also put less, the customers would also be less frustrated because they're not waiting 4 hours after they've sent an email or gotten in touch with you on Twitter or Instagram before you get a response. They can get instant responses or worst case scenario, next to instant responses. So that at that point, we are delivering value to the business by implementing those kind of solutions. So that and it's not just about we want to do a project, or we want to implement this. We found a use case. We found something that was a pain point for the customer, and we needed to deliver. And business value also in the sense that if customers decide that because it's taking them time to get a response, what eventually happens, they'll take their business elsewhere, and we don't want that, because we want those businesses so that we can gain revenue and salaries can be paid at the end of the day, right? So that's what it means, that focusing on business value and outcome and not strictly project plan and output, right? Focusing on value delivery and not on fixed product definition, deferring decisions about details as late as possible. So like I said, Agile is basically a mindset. It helps you to be able to deliver value and business value, not just from a customer perspective, but also from a business perspective as well. So that at the end of the day, customers are happy and then the management is happy as well. Any questions so far? Should we go on?
No question.
Go on.
Great. All right. So what are Agile practices? So there are quite a few, right? Some short time boxed iterations. What that means is everything is pretty much timed, right? So that you don't waste too much time. So I know you work in a proper corporate environment, right? I mean, how many times have you gone for a 30-minute meeting and then that meeting ends up at you end up spending 1 hour in that meeting?
About time.
Yeah, so and it can be consuming, and it can be and you sometimes you find that this meeting that you've called now, it can just be an email, right? Or it can be a Teams meeting or a memo or something, right? And which is one of the things that Agile preaches against. So Agile says, so for example, and there's something we'll get there as well, something called daily stand-ups, right? Your daily stand-ups are basically your project update meetings or your project report meetings to say what happened yesterday, Did you have any issues, and what are your plans for the end of the day, right? And that should not take more than 15 minutes. So everybody comes into the room and so Tommy says, okay, I was told to send out emails to vendors yesterday. I've done that. Today, this is what I'm going to be working on. Do I have any blocker, or are there any impediments stopping me from doing what I'll be doing today? The impediment is the office network keeps fluctuating, right? And then we find a solution to that. So that Agile says all those iterations, all those things are time boxed, right? Your sprint planning, depending on how long your sprint planning will be, is time boxed. Your sprint retrospective is time boxed, 15 minutes, 1 hour. Anything after that, let it be an email or let it be a communication on across board, right? So that's Agile preaches against just all those forever meetings and those everlasting meetings. Continuous integration, right? What that means is you continue to iterate, you continue to fix things as you go along, and you continue to test as well, which is the daily unit testing. You continue to test on a daily basis. You continue to find out that, okay, we tested this product yesterday and there's an issue. So QA or your software tester will go back to the drawing board and try to fix that for you, right? Regular retrospectives. A retrospective basically means you looking back, right? To say, okay, we finished this 2-week mini project. What were the things that we learned in this 2-week mini project? What did we do wrong? What can we do better for the next 2 weeks, right? So that's basically your retrospective. Direct communication between developers and the customer. What that means is, customers are always telling you, okay, this is what we need, and you can get that feedback directly, right? Because that communication is getting to the product on our ways, who more or less is in charge of that product or that feature, right? That thing will continue to get back, and you can continue to see that, okay, this is what we need to improve. We should improve this here, we should improve this there, we should take out this button, make it a radio button, or move this from the left to the right, move this logo from here to there. Basically, you continue to get those feedbacks on a regular basis. So Agile development, right? Agile is a set of practices, values, and principles for software product development. And like I said earlier, most of the projects that you do as an Agile project manager, as a Scrum Master, will be centered around technology, software, products, right? So from building a website to building an app, to building blockchain, it will basically revolve around the software development life cycle, irrespective of the industry it is. If it's HR, if it's fintech, if it's law, if it is manufacturing, whatever it is, if it's aerospace or defense, this software projects, have been used, or Agile has been used to deliver this software projects, right? In software product development, we think about methodologies, activities, iterations, results, work products. We think about processes that we use to, organize work. So, I mean, we did look at types of projects, right? And if you look at, this diagram here, right, you see, the simple project, right? I just want to do this and I get it done. So there are different types. So simple, complicated, complex, and chaos, right? And Agile usually thrives, within the complex and chaotic space, because why it thrives, because one, it's time box. Two is you want to continue to deliver value to the customer. Customer will say, okay, look, we don't want it here again. We want to pay school fees to Germany because a lot of people are going to Germany now. How can you help us? Or we want to be able to do this, and how can you as a company help us to deliver, this service, right? That's the best way. That's the best place Agile thrives, in chaos, in complexity, because you don't know, you can be building something today, and 3 months down the line, you find that technology or that customer, those customers don't want those things anymore, and you've already invested, a lot of time and effort and resources into that. But when it's agile, as they are building one thing in 2 weeks, you can continue to tweak. If customers say, okay, this is we want it to be done this way. We want to be able to use Apple Pay. There's Apple Pay now. We want to be able to use Apple Pay. You can quickly go back to the team and say, look, Apple Pay is in thing now. We want customers to be able to do Apple Pay. Do your research, get the designs ready, implement Apple Pay, and then people, everybody goes home happy. Release that to the customers, and customers would also feel a sense of belonging to say, look, we're getting constant feedback, and then they are delivering based on the feedback that we've told them to do, right? So that way, you are not far from the customer, and the customer isn't far from you. So for simple projects, everything is known. For complicated, more is known than unknown. For complex, more is unknown than known. And then for chaotic, very predictable, very little is known. You don't know what the customers are thinking. You have an idea of what the customers are thinking. Do what it is based on an idea. Let the customer give you feedback. Go back to the drawing board, do another cycle of mini projects, and then deliver again, and continue to iterate as life, as you go on. Right. We did look at what the waterfall project is, and this is more or less what we've been talking about from planning, from initiation to planning to execution, to monitoring, and then to closing out, right? So for a waterfall model, this is the typical process, right? And what does that mean? It means that so first things you do, you gather requirements, talk to the required stakeholders, and they give you, the necessary requirements. We want to build our attendance tracking website, and this is what it's going to look like. We like it like this. People want to be able to log in with this, with ID card. People want to be able to log in with fingerprint. People want to be able to log in with biometric with their face, and all of that stuff. So you gather all of those requirements, right? And then you start doing design, whether you're UI UX person or your system designer, they start doing a layout, or whether it's the system architecture person as well. They say, okay, this one should stay here because we want it to, so that it's easier to see. You start to choose your colors, start to choose your home button, and all of that stuff, right? So once all of that is done, and you start to develop, you start to give it to engineers, they start to code, they do all of the coding, and then they give it to your testers, your QA people or your software testers. The QA people will start to test, make sure everything is okay, do plenty back and forth. And then once that is done, you now commission, and then you deploy, right? That is your typical, waterfall project methodology. The issue with this is, you could have gotten here and then you find out that there's an issue along the way, right? What that means is you now have to go back to the beginning and then you tweak. And one of the disadvantages about waterfall is if requirement is not done, you can't start doing design, right? That's the bad thing about it. If design is not done, so each of these phases, right, each of the outputs is an input into the next thing, right? So for example, you can't test what you've not developed. You can't deploy what you've not tested, right? So that's always that's the one of the disadvantages of the waterfall model, right? And these are the statistics. 14% successful, 50%, 57% challenged. Challenge basically means that we didn't complete it, or there were a lot of issues along the way, and then 29% failed. This is a huge failure when it comes to project delivery, and 59 is basically just in between, right? So those are the major challenges of the waterfall project. Before I continue, any questions?
No question.
Thank you. Abdulrahman, any questions from your end? You can go on. Okay. All right, so let's just continue then. All right, so like I said, Agile is a mindset. So Agile prioritizes individuals and interactions over processes and tools. What that means is Agile is more people focused, right? People centric. The most important thing is for people to be able to communicate and be able to interact, right? How they communicate or why this one is not doing this is not excuse me, it's not priority when it comes to Agile, right? So it's more we prioritize individuals and interactions over processes and tools. We also prioritize working software over comprehensive documentation, right? What that means is it should just be working, right? I'm not interested in the project management plan or the product document or the all of those documents that we were looking at in the past 3 classes, right? The most important thing is the software working? Is it delivering value to the customer? Yes, we can do documentation later, right? And that's what would most I mean, so I can't remember the last time I wrote a project report. Not because I don't want to write it, but because my organization is heavily agile, agile based. So we use stuff like what's it called, like Slack and Jira to get stuff done. What that means is if I need something done, I just have to do is send a message to my boss because he understands that the most important thing is the working software. We want to get all of that done. Looks at the documentation briefly. So this is what we've done. This is what we need your approval for. Okay, has QA tested it? Yes, this is QA's test. This is QA's confirmation. Technically, it has also tested it. Fine, approve, and then it goes to deployment, and everyone is happy at the end of the day, right? We also prioritize customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So I mean, instead of haggling prices and trying to find out how much is this software, the most important thing is let's collaborate. I mean, we're getting this. You're doing this for us now, but I mean, in the not so distant future, you'll probably be doing other stuff for us as well. Lastly, we prioritize responding to a change over following a plan. What that means is you want to be able to, if something changes along the line, and I remember we did talk about scope creep, along the line. And there are times where I'm in the middle of a sprint and my MD sent a message to the product owner to say, we need to integrate with EcoBank or we need to integrate with First Bank. And that's a priority because we are going to be getting, close to maybe $1 billion in transactions. As far as I'm concerned, that thing has taken priority over every other thing, right? And I'm sure for you, Tommy, as well in the office, there are days that you're working on the documentation and your manager says, "Hi, Tommy, we need to do this. MD has said, this needs to go out or this letter needs to go out." I mean, at that point, what happens?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I would have to follow my boss's directive. I have to leave
Yeah,
whatever it is I'm doing and then.
exactly. That means priorities has changed, right? And even if she's the one that gave you the original, directive, it means that a new priority has landed, and then everything needs to be channeled and funneled towards that, new directive or new task. And that's the same thing with Agile as well. You don't say, no, you've already given me this one. I can't abandon what it is that I'm doing. I mean, that would sound absurd, right? Your job, yes. So the ideal thing would be to do, okay, fine, let's tidy this up. Once I'm done, I'll go back to, what the initial conversation. And that's the way Agile is. It's not just about following a plan, right? Or delivering a project. Is that you have to put, being able to respond to change into the equation.
Mm.
All right. Yeah, so I did remember saying that, there were other approaches to Agile, other methodologies or mindsets to Agile, right? The most popular one that you'd see anywhere, and that is widely used across countries, is Scrum, right? And which is what we'll take a look at in this class, right? Scrum is the most popular, it's the most effective, it's lightweight, and it makes a lot of sense where, you know, where software products and where work is concerned, right? There's also Kanban, right? So these are lighter agile approaches. There's lean, there's extreme, and then there's extreme program. There's DSTM and there's safe. Out of the heavy extensive agile approaches, the most popular is safe. So I mean, if you do want to continue in, you know, after you've taken the Scrum class, I mean, you know, get some experience after, hopefully change career paths or change trajectories, and then maybe after a year or two, you can now start taking a look at safe, because it's heavy, it's a lot, it spans across the organization and not just you know, many teams, right? So Scrum and safe are usually your go-to. There's a certification for Scrum. There are basically two options. There's the PSM one, which you more or less write an examination, similar to an exam. To me, I know you're in HR, there's CIPM, there's PHRI, right? It's been a while. Yeah. I did some HR work a while back. Yeah, yeah. So there's PHRI, there's SPHR, and all those stuff. So it's similar. You do an exam, do certifications. I don't know if for PHRI you get instant and results, but for the PSM exam, your results are instant, right? So the minute you click finish, you know your fate, right? Whether you pass or you've not passed. That's one option. The other option is the CSM Certified Scrum Master, which is, you don't have to do an exam. That's just a class like this that you attend, and then they usually require you to have like 1 year experience, and then you get, what's it called? You attend like a 2-day class, and then you do like a mini assessment, like 20-30 question assessment at the end of the day, and then you get your certification. That starts for Scrum. Right. So I mean, yeah. Personally, and for someone like you, to me, that, you know, already relating to people, I believe, and I feel, you know, you'll be able to transition a lot more strongly as you know, you currently relate with people on a day-to-day basis and engage and communicate with people as well. Right. Any questions so far before we kick off? Is Abdurrahman still with us, or he has abandoned us? Hi, Abdurrahman. All right, so yes, so waterfall versus agile. Like I said, waterfall is too rigid. So you plan, you design, you code, you test, you release, and then review. And the value to the customers don't get value until the end of this bit, right? Which is here. But where agile is concerned, customer gets value the minute you release, right? So you have 2 shorter iterations called sprints. Everything happens within this short period. Within that 2 period, the design is ready, you analyze, you code, you release, and then customer gets customer gets a value, right? And you continue to do that over, you know, continuous iterations. The value the customer gets starts to get bigger as you release each thing. So like I said, maybe the first 2 weeks, people can log in with their ID card. The next 2 weeks, people can log in with their face. The next 2 weeks, I mean, you continue to do that until, you know, and then you continue to fine tune until you've delivered value in that aspect. You pick up another aspect and you continue to, you continue to deliver value for there as well. So that's basically it, right? What's the time? 12:07. Okay. Right, so 12 principles for agile development. So we'll take this and then we'll go on a short break. Or except, Tommy, do you want us to take, so this is 12:57, do you want to take 5 minutes? Because this might take like 10-15 minutes for me to explain, and then we come back and we kick off.
Anyone is fine, actually.
Okay, so this All right, so this is 12:57, so we can do 12:05, and then we can kick off from there.
Okay.
Great. All right. Tommy, I hope you're back. Rahman,
Okay.
great. My okay, so let's kick off. Yeah, so principles. Okay. Yeah, great. Welcome back, Rahman.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. The first principle, satisfaction and delivery. So I have our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. I mean, like I've said, or like I've been saying, right? That's your customers are the most important. If there are no, if they don't pay, or if they're not, if they perceive that they're not getting value, then they perceive that they are not getting value, then I mean, they'll probably just take their money elsewhere, right? So our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through. I mean, just continue to iterate and to make sure that what they've asked of us has been delivered, right? What they've asked of us is done. If they ask us to tweak this, we look at it, look at the resources that we have, and then we tweak, right? That's because they're our main priority, right? Two, welcome change, right? Welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for a customer's competitive advantage. What that means is, I mean, if you get to the end or towards the end of the road, so because we're agile, and we said that, you know, one of the main reasons or the meaning for agile is for flexibility and to be nimble, right? If we get down the line and customers are saying that, look, this particular feature is no longer needed, right? We think we should do this, right? Our job is to go back to the drawing board and fine tune how we can make them happy, right? I mean, it doesn't mean that it's everything that they tell us to do is what we do, right? But the most important thing is if they've listed 2-3 things, we look at the ones that we think aligns with our business ethos and that we can prioritize, and then we can put that back into the system to say, okay, look, we can deliver this one, and we can deliver this one over a 2-week period, over a 3 to 4 weeks period, and everyone goes home happy at the end of the day, right? So our job as the agile team and the company that is, you know, agile dependent is to always welcome those changes, right? We don't say, look, we can't do this or we won't do this. Take those changes, internalize it, see how well we can use those items or use those feedback and then deliver them. Deliver frequently, right? So deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months with a preference to shorter time scales. So Agile has, especially Scrum has what we call sprints. Sprints can be 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, and 4 weeks, but not more than those. You can say, look, we want to deliver something every 2 weeks, I want to deliver something every 3 months, I want to deliver something every four weeks, right? It's up to, you know, it's the team's prerogative and the company's prerogative, right? But you have to always deliver working software frequently. Make sure you deliver, you roll out an app, a feature. In Agile, we call it ship, but a lot of people don't use that word anymore. Just make sure that you deliver or you roll out something. And I'm sure sometimes, maybe for some of us that use some of these apps, you go to bed and by the time you wake up the following morning, you see that maybe the color has changed, or especially if you use Twitter, right? 1 minute is you see that they've changed the word from the tweet to the post, right? Or they've moved the profile image, or they've moved the you now have a bookmark button, and it's no longer, you don't have to right click or something like that. So Twitter, you know, stuff like that is what you call, and I'm sure Twitter uses, you know, Agile as well. Continuously iterating to make sure that, you know, that people are, you know, getting value on a regular basis. Communication is key. Business people and developers must work together daily through the project. Always communicate with your with the product people, with the customer experience to make sure that whatever it is that you are required of is, or whatever business requires is being met or is being funneled down to the Agile team. Whatever customers are talking about is being funneled down to the customer team. That way, there's constant communication, and then there's that continuous feedback loop so that everyone knows what's going, and you just don't hear about, this is what management wants. Whenever management wants something, they usually funnel it through the product owner, but it's the product owner or the product manager's job to funnel it through down to the Agile team, and so that they know how to implement those features or what the requirements that management has decided upon. Environment and trust. So build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. One of the key factors in Agile is trust, right? You need to be able to trust that the team that you have gathered are experienced enough to deliver what you asked them to do, right? And you need to continue to have that environment, have that space where everyone, can speak their mind, and everyone believes that they are trusted enough to deliver. If they are not experienced enough, because it is a self-organizing team, right? They should ask for help, right? Most people don't like to ask for help, but they should ask for help. But you need to create that environment for trust, and so that they can always come to you for help. They can always, reach out whenever there's an issue. As a project manager told me this is the issue, Raman is the issue, and then your job is to be able to solve them. But you need to create that environment for trust and support. Face-to-face communication, right? The most efficient and effective method for conveying information to and within teams in a development team is face-to-face conversation. So unfortunately, we are living in a world of remote work and hybrid work, but more or less this is basically just you saying, if there's an issue, always have a one-on-one with the people, with the person that you had an issue with, or the people that have issues, right? I mean, call them separately, don't chastise them in public, just have a conversation with them separately and say, hey, Tommy, or hey, Raman, this is, there's an issue, I heard so and so, what happened? I mean, give me your side of the story, and then don't judge or don't take a decision until you hear the full side of the story. Or if someone is not pulling his or her weight, you don't want to chastise that person in public. You just want to say, hey, Jide, what's going on? Can we have a sync? Or can we have a quick call after this meeting? And you guys have a call. I just chopped breakfast, or something happened, or I lost a family member of some sort, right? And then that way, that's also a way to gain trust, and then also create an environment for support, right? Always good for you to have one-on-one conversations with your team. Working software. Working software is the primary measure of progress, right? And like I said earlier, Agile is not just because you want to use a framework or methodology. The most important thing is that the software should work. Is it working? Yes. Is it working as it's expected to? Yes. Maybe not 100%, but it's delivering value. We'll continue to iterate, but the software must be working. That app must be working. People must be able to sign in. People must be able to collate data. People must be able to log out when do you log in and log out. That software must just work. That's the core function of it. Sustainable development. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. What this means is, if you guys have committed to a 2-week sprint or 3-week sprint, and you say, look, for every time we finish this sprint, we'll deliver something, no matter how small, that you need to stick to those decisions and say, okay, every time we finish a sprint, there has to be something we've committed that will deliver something to the customer, no matter how much. If you guys say we are going to deliver, if it's going to be 20 story points, or 10 story points. We'll talk about story points later, or 10 story points in this sprint. And that's what we are going to be doing, except, maybe we have less velocity. That is what you continue to do, right? So you need to commit to something that the team, is capable of doing, right? It's like you saying, so sustainable development in another way is just basically in a day, this is what I can finish this document. So that's the worst case scenario, right? I can finish this policy, or I can finish this memo or this communication. You need to be able to commit to something and say, look, every time we start a sprint and every time we finish a sprint, we've committed to at least, deploy 10 story points worth of items to the customer so that they can gain value. So that's basically what sustainable development means. Attention to details. So continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. As a Scrum Master and as an Agile project manager, you always want to pay attention to details. If the design is not right, if someone is dropping the ball, if documentation that they've sent doesn't contain the necessary items that you want it to contain, you always have to make sure that you're on top of your game when it comes to details. You won't see anything and see everything, and that's why you're a team. So always ask people to go through the document, let them give their feedback, and then whoever has, done the design or feedback, they can have, they can give their feedback and people can tweak, right? But you need to be able to, you need to be able to pay good attention. So you don't have to be technical, right? But you need to be able to pay good attention to details. The power of less. Simplicity is essential. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done. Always keep things simple. Don't make things as too complex. You don't have to deliver all the software at once. If it's just 5 items, that if they've given you 20 items and your team say they can deliver only 5, then let's deliver 5. The most important thing is that the customer gets value, right? If they're giving us 20 and it's only 8 or 10 that we think we can deliver, then let's deliver 8. Like, once again, the most important thing is to deliver something useful to the customer. Keep it simple as often as possible. Don't get too complicated. Don't do analysis paralysis, right? Just put things on the ground and get things going. Less is always more, right? Self-organizing teams, right? What that means is people should be able to help each other whenever there's a need. So my teams, what I do with the teams I work with, the idea or the plan is to make sure to build them up to a place where whenever you don't have to always be the mediator as a project manager, as a Scrum Master. What that means, if there's an issue, if Tommy and Ramana are working on a project and they are loggerheads or they need to resolve something, the self-organizing team will just say, look, Rama will say, okay, let me be the bigger person. Tommy, I had this issue with you. You didn't write this code properly when I reached out. And Tommy will say, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. This was not how I saw it, or this is the way I'm looking at it. And you guys squash those cobbles. Or if you need to get something from a team externally, or the design person isn't getting your work, sending you the right design document for you to do your work, then you can just reach out to design and say, design, hey, what you sent is not complete. Can we have a quick call to have this resolved? And that gets done, right? So that's basically what self-organizing teams is, being self-organizing. And what that also means that everything that you need to deliver that project, every expertise, every technical expertise you need to deliver that product, or if that feature in that product is available within that team. So whether it's the backend engineer, or whether it's the design team, or whether it's the the web team or mobile team, basically that's what it means, right? Adjusting at regular intervals. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. When we start to look at team retros or retrospectives, retrospective is when you go back to the drawing board and say, we're meant to do 20 story points in this sprint. We only did 8 or we only did 10, right? What was the issue? What happened? How can we become better? What should we have done better? what was the issue? Was it did we get the document on time, or the product people didn't send us the right design, so they had to go back? I mean, so make those adjustments and you continue to build. You always have retros at the end of each session, right? Each design sprint, or each sprint rather, each iteration. That retro is basically meant for you to say, okay, this is what we have done as a team. What did we do wrong? How can we get better? And how can we become more effective going forward and then become more self-organized, right? So those are the 12 principles of Agile delivery. I'm still going to share this document with you guys, so you guys, can continue to take a look at it. But so far,
Okay.
any questions before we go on?
Everything is understood for now.
Great. Tell me.
It's clear, thank you.
Great. All right. So Scrum. Yep. Yes, so into Scrum. Yeah, so at the beginning we talked about what Scrum is, and then the companies. This is basically just quick intro. Companies that are using Scrum. A lot of the big heavy hitters and small heavy hitters abroad are using Scrum. Like I said, if you go into LinkedIn and just type Scrum Master, even in the UK, Nigeria, you will see the US. You see a truckload of available jobs. Most of them would ask for a year experience, give or take. But you can always start off as a junior Scrum Master, someone who understands Scrum and is just learning the ropes. Right. And even locally as well, Flutterwave, the Unicorn, InterSwitch, MTN, Airtel, Etisalat, Paystack, all of the guys, Tech Cabal, all of those guys are, basically using Agile to deliver. And that's why you wake up one day, even MTN, Stanbic, GT Bank, Stanbic, Standard Chartered, Taj Bank, Polaris, all of these banks are basically adopted because it's easier to deliver working software. So that's why you just wake up one morning and you see that on your bank app. I remember I'm not sure if Tony uses GT Bank. There was a day that everybody woke up and GT Bank had upgraded or updated their app.
Yeah.
Exactly. And nobody knew. We just woke up one morning and things have changed. Yeah. But if you look back now and then, you see that the issues that people had are no longer there as are now.
Yeah.
Right? Things have gotten better. They've continued at their iteration. So what that means is they're iterating every time. So you find out by the end of the week, by Monday again, things have normalized a bit. People that can't see their account balances can now see them. People that had issues logging in with their fingerprint could now do that. So they kept on iterating until less issues. People that can't liquidate their loans are now able to do that on the app. So they kept on iterating until they got better. So that's an agile, way and an agile process. Stanbic just woke up to one morning and I was trying to log into my Stanbic bank account, and they said I can now, access their other platforms. So they had merged everything into one platform. I can access my Stanbic pension, my Stanbic asset management into the same app, right? So they just did that overnight, but it wasn't all overnight. What happened was that feature was ready, they had tested it, and they just waited for everybody to go to bed so that by the time you wake up in the morning, things, and what usually happens is things don't happen during the day. They would most likely happen at night, right? Or over the weekend, right? So that it doesn't disturb customer transactions and the rest. So that's basically, Agile and Scrum at work. So what is Scrum, right? Scrum is simple to understand. It's a lightweight, just like I said earlier. a framework within which people can address complex, adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. It's not, okay, this is meant to be not difficult to master. Sorry, not difficult to master. I'll change that later. So I mean, it's pretty easy to master, and once you understand it, you basically just be flying, and then you become better at it, right? So what's the theory is, behind Scrum, we learn as we go, right? You continue to learn new things. I mean, since I've joined my new firm, I've learned things on the go, right? You continue to learn things. Things would always continue to change, right? You won't always have control over everything, right? But things would always change as you go along. You can plan for it, just like the second box says, but you might not know what will change. In the waterfall model, you assume that this is what's going to change, but at the end of the day, it doesn't happen, right? And then you embrace change, rather than just saying we decided, like that example we gave to me. Something your line manager said to me, we need to do this, and then you just say, no, I'm going to stick to the plan. That doesn't work, right? You have to embrace the change. You inspect and you adapt, and you continue to, make changes along the way. That's basically what Scrum is. It's not a hard and fast rule. You continue to adapt. You continue to make decisions that best serves the customer and then the team and the organization as well. So parts of the Scrum framework, each component within the framework serves as a specific purpose, and it's essential to some Scrum success and usage. So we have roles, we have ceremonies, and artifacts. We'll take a look at the three roles are basically the things that happen, the group of people that work within the Scrum environment, right? And they're typically three. The product owner, more or less, is the product manager, the Scrum Master, which is us, and then the development team, which is your engineering team. That usually contains usually between 5 to 9. Standard is 5 to 9. But I've learned that in Nigeria, standards usually don't work. I mean, I've handled teams that are more than 10, but typically 5 to 9. 5 to 9 people. That team would contain everything you need to deliver a working software over short periods or over the different sprints that you've chosen, right? Then the different ceremonies, from daily stand-ups, we'll take a look at those, to sprint planning, to backlog refinement, and then to sprint retrospective and sprint reviews, and then the artifacts, which are your sprints, sprint backlog, your product backlog, and the rest, right? Right. So like I said, the people, you have your product owner, we'll look at the different roles and what they do, who they are, the product owner, the Scrum Master, which once again that's us, and then the developmental team. Any questions so far before we kick off, before we continue with that?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good, thank you.
No question.
Great. All right. Yes, so the meetings, we have sprint planning. Your sprint planning basically means that we'll take a look at that as well, but these are the ceremonies that happens within Scrum. Your sprint planning, where you plan the things that you think you can handle within a 2-week period, right? And then your daily sprint, your daily Scrum, right, or daily stand-up, right, is basically, like I said, an update meeting. So let's assume that, and then hopefully maybe from next week, the next 2 classes, we'll take live examples and you'll see what it is. We'll do some role playing as well so that we can see how it works. Right. So so your daily Scrum basically is, maybe I've given Tommy a task and I'm saying, Tommy, Alpha, what's the update on the task? I mean, typically follows a particular pattern, and that pattern is, what did you do yesterday? what are you planning to do today, and what are the impediments or the blockers that that is not stopping you to do that or those tasks, right? Then the sprint review is what we've done before we release it to the general public. The people that have asked us to do it, we do like a small demo for them. They take a look at it and they say, okay, this is good. We'll release that to the users. The sprint retrospective is usually for just the engineers or the engineering team, right? Without the Scrum Master, without the product owner. And then they're asking, okay, what did we do wrong? What did we do? Can we get better? Release plan is usually optional. Basically, you just release or how you plan to release features. Do you want to release everything at once, or you want to release it in batches or in different iterations, right? Then the artifacts. The product backlog is a list of everything that you want to do. I think I have a sample somewhere. I'll show you an example of a product backlog, a sprint backlog. And so a sprint backlog is what you want to do over that 2-week period. Like I said, sprints are usually 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Let me knock off the 1 week. So 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then 4 weeks, right? And then the last one is the potentially shippable product increment. What that means is what you plan to deploy to customers once you are done with the sprints. Yes, so the Scrum Master, which is where we are. Any questions?
No question.
I'm okay. I might just need to catch up with the class from the beginning again and see that again.
All right, so the Scrum Master is responsible for ensuring Scrum is understood and enacted while supporting the team, right? Scrum Masters do this by acting as a coach, ensuring that the Scrum team adheres to Scrum theories, practices, and rules. As a Scrum Master, right, you're basically you're the mediator, you're the facilitator, you're the coach, you're pretty much everything to everybody, right? You resolve issues, you resolve issues internally, you resolve interdepartment issues, inter-squad issues. If your engineers need to get things done, you are the one that they come to, right? If the product owner is having issues with the engineer, it is your job to resolve that. You are the project manager, you are the daddy, you are the mommy, you are pretty much everything, right? And it can be tasking, right? So you need to be mentally prepared to be able to take on those roles. Yes, as much as the Scrum process is an easy process, right? It's the people part, the people skill part, and the soft skill parts that you need to really gets overwhelming. Right? I mean, there are times that. So, for example, we're trying to do a new structure this week, and I've been in meetings with the CTO, with the new technical lead, with the chief product officer, continually tweaking, you would always be in those meetings, right? And trying to fine tune. And my engineers are asking me, what's the new pod structure? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? I'm going on leave. You need to hand over this task to somebody else. A ton of stuff, right? We need to do deployment. I don't have emails I need to talk to this department or this unit to do deployment. So there's usually a lot on your plate, right? So you need to be able to be time sensitive. Your time management skills have to be on point, right? You need to know how to do all of those things, right? So you're the master of the Scrum team, right? You work daily with the Scrum team on a daily basis. You guys, you most likely have a separate channel with your Scrum team than separate channels for conversations with the main team. And what does that help you to do? That helps you to communicate easier. It helps you to communicate better and then also resolve issues faster, right? You're a servant leader, right? What that means is your job is to make sure that everybody is comfortable as much as possible. Enabling, not accountability role means, over time it has metamorphosed into an accounting role. So it also depends on the organization we work with. Sometimes I get reached out to say, if where are we on this deployment, and I'm more than happy to to have conversations with engineers. As long as I know what the engineers are doing, I can always get updates and feedbacks on when those things will be done, right? Yes, so your job is to enable, the deployment process, the development process rather, to make sure that they have what they need. There are no blockers. You are resolving those as they come up, and stuff like that. You're a change agent. What that means is if things need to change, you have to be the champion to have that resolved. If things need to change within the team and without and outside the team as well, it is your job to make sure that stuff is going according to plan, right? And then the product owner. So who is the product owner? The single ringable neck. What that means is the product owner is in charge of that product. So, for example, what's it called? Let's say I work or we work in a tech firm, right? That they have customer-facing products, right? So let's say GT Bank app, for example, right? There will be a product manager for that app, right? There'll be a product owner for that. All those times that we are shouting on GT Bank's neck, right? All those feedback that we are sending, it is the product manager or product owner that is going to be facing the hits for that particular, for all of that, right? He's the one that if they want to break anybody's head, it is his head that they will break, right? The product owner is responsible for the project and driving product success, right? It represents and speaks for the business needs of the project by creating and sharing the vision of the product, right? So the product owner would have probably, done some research and feedback and said, look, gone to management and say, we want to upgrade the app, or we want to change the design, we want to change the flow, we want to do this, and goes to the design team and say, this is what I have in mind, create something new for me, right? And then he's done that, and then he brings it to the team and say, team, oh, this is the new design, this is what we need to do. We'll continue to iterate as we go, but we need to launch the first version in April or in May or in August, right? So the success or failure of that project basically lies on the product owner or the product manager. His job or his or her job is to make sure that everything that is needed for that product to be delivered, whether it's resources, whether it's whatever it is, right, is available, right?
Excuse me. So, the product owner, is it the financier of the product of the products?
No, he's not. He usually gets.
Is it like the project? Is it like the project? Is it also like the project manager?
No, he's not. So in Scrum, there's no project manager per se. There's no term project manager, but the Scrum Master plays the role of the project manager because he makes sure that everything goes according to plan, right? Okay. And then the product owner and the Scrum Master usually work hand in hand for items that need to be deployed and delivered, right? Your product owner is basically let me use the word like a mini CEO, so to say, right? So I've gone to management and said that, look, I think we need to upgrade our app. And why do we need to upgrade our app? He's done his research and he said that, if we upgrade our app, more people will get onboarded. We'll be able to do transactions better. We'll change our infrastructure at the back end so that it can support the new app. And he's done his case study, his research, and also done the justification for doing that project, right? And then he shares it. So he goes and he gets all the necessary approvals that he wants, right? Okay. And he now comes to the Agile team, including you, the Scrum Master, and then development team. And you guys now sit down and start to do a product tear down, right? And say, this is what we want to achieve. Guys, how long do you think this will take? Which one can we deliver first, right? Design will say, okay, I have a design idea. And then they start sharing ideas maybe on a daily basis. And you think, okay, I don't think this will work. I think this will work. I don't think this will work. So the first 2 weeks, you do a demo, you show it to management, and management says, okay, this is good. let's release to the people. And then we had that release that GT Bank did, and everybody was on their case. At that point in time, because there is a product manager for that app, right? That particular, and depending on the organization that you have, right? So, for example, a firm like Flutterwave that has 1,000,001 products, right? So they have Send by Flutterwave, they have Tuition that used to pay school fees, they have Flutterwave for Business. Each of those products have product managers. They are the ones that are responsible for, they're not responsible for generating revenue, right? But what they are responsible for is creating the environment to generate revenue. If marketing says that we want people to be able to do this on the app, it is products and the engineering team or the product team's job to take a look at what they've asked for and then deliver it based on those requests. Is that clear, Raman?
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
Great. So works daily with the Scrum team to clarify requirements. So every day he's on the call to say, okay, well, these are the issues. Is there any so if the Scrum team says we are not clear about this particular issue, right? They now come and say, this product manager will come and say, okay, this is what this means. You know, we are doing this before, but now this is the way we want to do it, right? Before, when you just open the app and you can log in with your username and password, now we want people to be able to do biometrics. We want people to be able to do OTP sign-on or multi-factor authentication, right? So we want to add those features. So he gives those clarifications on a regular, on a daily basis. You know, he embodies a shared vision. What that means is he has to be able to sell that vision to not just the product team, not just the management, but also to the product team as well. Decides what the product does and does not include, and then bridges gaps between customers and stakeholders, and then the Scrum team. Stakeholders are usually senior management or leadership. Scrum team. So how does it bridge the gap between the customer? So by constantly engaging, either through surveys, either through feedbacks, either through reviews, you know, all of those stuff, right? And then the Scrum team, obviously, through daily stand-ups, to sprint planning and the rest. So that's our product owner, right? So what are the responsibilities? What does he do, right? So he develops the product vision, the strategy, and then the direction. So he decides, okay, this is how we want to do it. This is the way he thinks it should go. So let me use our GT Bank app as an example, and says, okay, we want people to be able to do this. We want people to be able to do everything on the app. They can check their BVN. They can pay for as many things as they want, for travels, for tickets, for electricity, for visas, and all of that stuff. We want people to be able to do that, right? And then that's the direction that we want to go. We also want to make sure that people can't do fraud, you know, on the internet, on our app. Right. He said short-term and long-term goals for the project. Short-term, they say within the first 6 months, this is what we want to do. And maybe in the next 2 years, this is our direction. We want to be able to integrate with our other subsidiaries, maybe GT Financial Managers, or maybe be able to do insurance with AXA Mansard and all of those stuff. It takes responsibility for the product's budget and profitability. Depending on the firm, right? If it's a big firm, what would happen in this case, he'll probably be working with, with the marketing team. I mean, case in point is in my own company, the products that I have a budget, right, to deliver at the end of each year. But at the same time, that budget is not isolated, right? It's also tied to the marketing team's ability to deliver that product as well. What that means is, if my CEO is saying, your products, if you're on the team, and the product manager is, say, 30 million in revenue, and that 30 million isn't going to be just isolated, just, it's not just going to be go and bring 30 million, right? It also has to, so it now starts to cascade to marketing to say, okay, marketing, for you to do this 30 million on this particular app, what do you need? What are the things that you need, right? What number of transactions do we need to do? How do you plan to onboard people? What are the places that you want to go to? What kind of adverts do you want to do? What kind of onboarding do you want to do? Right. So that's basically how it works. Some firms will just say, so it's organization dependent, right? Some organizations will just say, okay, marketing this particular product should be doing 30 million, or sales this particular product should be doing 20 million, right? Or the whole company should be doing 100 million in revenue, but broken down to different products. And that is going to be and then they hand that target to the sales team, and sales team now say, okay, look, product, we've been told that this particular product, we've been told that we are going to do 30 million. How can you support us to do 30 million, right? And then the sales, marketing, and then the product team say, okay, look, this is how we want to do it. This is how we are thinking about it. But this is the budget that we need to be able to us to deliver budgets in terms of marketing, in terms of sponsorship, in terms of events, and all of those stuff, right? So it usually doesn't go isolatively. Right. So provider has access to product expertise. So you most likely see him attending events, speaking at events, especially your product managers. They're most likely be speaking at events, having conversation with people, about their products, how their products can be better to, depending on if it's a B2B product, you'll be having those kind of conversations. If it's a business to B2C products, you'll be having conversations, you'll be doing adverts, YouTube ads, speaking at conferences so that people, there's awareness for that product. He also decides on the release date for completed functionality. If you finish a product in a sprint, you can say, hold on, sorry. Yeah, so he decides the release date for completed functionality. So if he sees that, except if it's not urgent, some product managers will say, okay, we've done this, let's release it. Some will say, let's wait till that a particular function or a particular feature is ready and then you release it. There's no one size fits all for it, right? Some people just say, let's just release it at this time. Right. Owns the product backlog. I'll show you what a product backlog looks like, hopefully in the next class. The product backlog is basically everything you want to do for that particular product is centered, right? That's what the product backlog is. Gathers, prioritize, and manages product requirements. Sometimes they have junior PMs who also support. On the product one of the products that I work on they have two product managers, a senior one and a junior one. The junior one does more operational issues. Customers are having this kind of issues or that kind of issues. And the main product manager is one that, has conversations with the team and also with stakeholders as well. Works with the team on a daily basis to answer questions and make decisions. Should we change this format, or should we go this way? Should we go this direction? Conveys the product needs to the team. This is what the product needs to do, and this is the way we are thinking about it. Let us know your feedback and how we can, make this product a success. Accept or reject completed work during the sprint. So after each sprint is done, usually do a demo session with the product team. They usually check, there's something we call a PM review, product manager review. So the PM checks the work that you've done based on the requirements that you set out, right? And so if it's satisfied and everything is done, then you do a broader check, right? To make sure that everything is done. You now do a broader check or a broader demo for the stakeholders who are interested in that product, and they take a decision, okay, should we release now or should we wait, or or should we just, continue to build, right? Those are the key responsibilities of a product owner. It's usually a lot of work. As product management is concerned, it's a lot of work. It's also a lot of money, but the product manager or the product owner is usually wearing multiple hats, from engaging with customers to engaging with the team, and to engaging with a few other people as well. Any questions before I go on?
No questions.
Thank you. All right. So lastly, the development team. Development team consists of professionals who do the work of delivering a potentially releasable increment of done product at the end of each sprint, right? So what does that mean? It means that before you start a particular sprint, right? So I know, sorry, I'm going to use an example in this class. I apologize.
Okay.
So those things that we do and we say what I ordered versus what I got.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you've gone to your tailor and you have one Owambe next weekend, and you've said, tailor, I've seen this style at so person's wedding. Please, can you sew this style for me? And you give her the material. You should give her the picture, and you've given her the design, right? Told her everything, and she said, this one will cost you 200,000. I said, okay, no problem. That's the bill. And then you give it to her. You tell her that for you to be able to accept this cloth, right, this is the design that I want. And she's taking your measurements, necessary details, and everything has been sent to her. And she says it will take 2 weeks, right? Or 3 weeks. You want to put all the sequencing, the stones, and all of those things. And then 2 weeks down the line, you go to your tailor's shop for fitting, right? And you see that what I ordered versus what I got is really, really, there's a big gap, right? A very, very big gap. Yeah. That's what we mean by definition of done. For you, the definition of done is it must fit me and it must align with the design or the picture that I have sent to you, right? Yeah. And the requirements that you have sent, right? She has taken your measurements. All of those measurements must be intact, right? That's what we call definition of done in product management or in Agile. What that means is as a product manager, he has brought down and say, for us to accept or deploy this thing, this product feature must be able to do 1, 2, 3 things based on the design that you have done. So what you expect at the end of the 2-week sprint is for that cloth to fit perfectly, and then to also give you the required fit or the required feeling that you want it to give you. If it doesn't meet it, then that means that your definition of done was not met, and you can't wear that, that dress to your Wambe. It's the same thing for Agile development. If the team doesn't meet the definition of done, after the product manager has shared it, then it won't be released, right? They'll have to go back to the drawing board and then redo it again. Right, so that's the definition of done. Okay. So development team is part of the Scrum team. They constitute mostly the Scrum team. And like I said, your Scrum team or the Agile team is basically everyone you need to deliver a working feature or a working increment. So it can be your back-end engineer, your front-end engineer, your web engineer, your QA team, your design team, your business analyst, depending on the kind of product that you're working on, right? So they work daily in the Scrum team. And then they are the ones that give you updates on a daily basis. This has been done, this has not been done. We're having issues testing this product because we don't have access. So your job as a product manager will be like, okay, let me reach out to so person and then let them resolve this. Right. So the change agents, they are enabling, and then the servant leaders as well. Sorry. Yes. Key feature, they are not traditional people. They are not team tasks and work being, so for traditional team tasks and work being directed by a manager, but Scrum teams are self-organizing, right? So you can see, say, self-organizing teams choose how best to accomplish their work, rather than being directed by others, outside the team. What that means is, so at first they won't be, right? They won't be self-organized, but as your job as a Scrum Master is to make sure that they become self-organizing along the line. And what that means is whatever things that they need to do their job is at their beck and call, right? You need to provide all of those support. So as they go along, they know that, okay, they need this, and then you don't need to remind them as a Scrum Master that, oh, this is what you need. You know how to test, they know who to reach to if they need to test, they need how to speak to DevOps if they need to get things done, and and stuff like that. So they don't, other influences, external influences don't influence how they make decisions, right? They know what to do, and then they do stuff, right? They are formed, so for Scrum team feature, for traditional teams, formed by function. For your Scrum team, they will not be formed by functions. They will be cross-functional. Like I said, you would have engineers, you have software testers, you'd have design people, you might have a business analyst. Depending on the product, right? So, but everything you need for that particular product to work, right, would be embedded in that Scrum team. All right, so next week we'll start taking a look at our product backlog and the rest. Yeah, so that's basically it for this class. Any questions before we call it a day? Any question, anything you want me to go over? More than happy to.
No question.
Great. Raman, we good? Awesome. Okay. All right. So next week we'll take a look at our backlogs, what our product backlog is. I'll share examples as well. Backlog grooming, and then the sprints. We'll take a look at a few examples as well. What I'll do is I'll try and create a product backlog before we start, so that we can see what a product backlog is. And then we take a look at user stories and how product owners write user stories as well.
All right.
All right. Great. I hope this has been what's the experience so far, and at least we understand what the difference between Agile and Waterfall is, and the different roles that are available in the Scrum team. All right, guys, let's have a good weekend.
You too.
And Tommy, please, if you have good Owambe, please make sure you go for Owambe, and try to escape from what I got versus what I ordered.
Thank you so much. I will.
Have a good weekend, guys.
All right, you too. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.